All right, let's talk about parenting, specifically that wild, often stressful world of introducing solid foods. We're going to dive into one mother's story that I think a lot of you will relate to. And it's all about how the rule book she religiously followed for her first baby got completely tossed out the window for her second. So if you're a first-time parent, you know the drill, right? You read all the books, you scroll through all the forums, you follow every single recommendation to a T. But what happens when you've already been through the trenches? We're going to look at the night and day difference between introducing solids to baby number one versus baby number two. And you'll see how experience and confidence can change absolutely everything. Okay, so first up, baby number one. The approach here was, well, exactly what you'd expect. It was careful, it was methodical, and it was strictly by the book, starting right around that 6-month mark. Now, let's just take a second to appreciate the sheer effort we're talking about here. This wasn't just, grabbing a jar from the store. This was homemade vegetable purees, frozen in little ice cube trays. It was this careful dance of partial baby-led weaning, where you'd preload a spoon and let the baby try to feed himself. And then, of course, the cleanup. The cleanup. The high chair, the long-sleeve smock, every single time. And this quote just hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? The whole process, the prep, the mess, the constant routine, it was just overwhelming. This feeling of it being a mental burden was so real that some days solids only happened once. It had nothing to do with what the baby was ready for and everything to do with what the parent could actually handle that day. And if the logistics weren't enough, you had the nutritional anxiety piled on top. The parent was absolutely laser-focused on one rule in particular, minimal to zero salt. And this one single guideline pretty much dictated every meal choice, adding a whole other layer of complexity to everything. Okay, so now let's pivot to baby number two, because this is where the entire script gets flipped. The mother herself described the experience as a complete night and day difference. The rigid rulebook, it was gone. And you can just see the shift right here. All that time spent making homemade purees? Yeah, pretty much gone. Except for some prunes to, keep things moving. The super slow one meal a day thing? Nope. She jumped right into multiple meals a day. It was mostly baby-led weaning this time. Just chop up the food, make sure it's soft, and let the baby go for it. We're talking sourdough toast with peanut butter, even pancakes. Which, of course, brings us to the salt roll, which became way, way more flexible. So when you lay it all out side by side like this, the difference is just, wow, it's so stark. The method, the pace, the rules. But look at that last one, the parent's anxiety level. It went from a high mental burden to relaxed and confident. The core task was the same, feed the baby, but the how, the actual experience for the parent, was from a different planet. So if the approach was so radically different, but the end goal was exactly the same, what was the real variable here? What really changed? Because it wasn't the baby. And honestly, it wasn't even really about the food itself. This right here is the heart of the whole story. The fundamental change, the big pivot, wasn't about the child's needs. It all happened inside the parent's head. The mother put it perfectly. She said she was simply in a different mind space. Think about it. She had already done the hard work with her first. She'd already conquered the mental hurdles of the mess, the cleanup, the anxiety of it all. She didn't need that same slow, structured transition for herself anymore. And this is just such a powerful and honest insight. That slow, methodical approach with her first child, it wasn't a mistake. It wasn't something she did wrong. It was a necessary step, not just for the baby, but for her. She needed that slow on-ramp to build her own confidence and just stay sane. So, what's the big lesson here? What can we all take away from this story about the journey of parenting, or really about learning any new complicated skill in life? The crucial takeaway is this: confidence is a muscle. You build it through experience. All that stress, the obsessive rule following, that feeling of being totally overwhelmed, it's often just part of the process. What feels like a huge mental burden with your first can honestly feel like second nature with your second. The so-called perfect method is so much less important than just finding what actually works for you and your family, right here, right now. And that leaves us with a final thought for you to chew on. Whether it's about food or sleep or screen time, as we learn and grow as parents, what are the rules we're clinging to that might be causing more stress than they're worth? What's one rule you might be ready to let go of? Not just for your kids, but for your own peace of mind. Thanks for tuning in.